How did the choice of building a skate park on Standing Rock community come to fruition?
Uh, well, we've been building parks in the most isolated areas of Montana, over the last 10, 15 years. And I have some friends who have a skate shop in eastern North Dakota, well, actually Western Minnesota, technically, Crookston, Minnesota. And we've sort of had this. We've been going back and forth. He's been asking me, when are you going to start building parks in North Dakota? And so I started asking questions 5 or 6 years ago. I'm like, what are the places that need it the most? And of course, he, like me, went right to the most isolated areas, and Standing Rock, with all of the history there in the last few years. We started talking to people that we started talking to some of the kids at 48's middle school, and it just felt like most of the other projects, we just sort of follow the energy, and we were really feeling a lot of energy from there. So we started talking to Billy Joe there, and Shauna, on the reservation, and we have a great piece of property. Nike was already putting up basketball hoops there, so there was a spot right next to the basketball hoops, and I think we built a great park. I can't wait to see it, and the pictures look amazing. So
it sounds like an exciting, amazing event that's going to be taking place. Let's see here. You open more than 30 skate parks, and all of them are in rural communities. So you mentioned before how all that started. 30 skate parks, and do you have plans for more in the future?
yeah, we sort of have, we have about 10 penciled in over the next 3 or 4 years. So that's been the cool thing about this, is that the energy, there's just sort of been this ball of energy that's kind of just gotten bigger and bigger. And whereas 5 or 6 years ago, we were sort of actively, reaching out to communities to see if they wanted a park in their community. Now we have, communities reaching out to us. And I think a lot of times when the town next to you gets something like that, then it becomes competitive. And that's a good competition. It's like these small communities want to make their communities more livable for the young families. And I think, skate parks and play areas and places for kids to be doing healthy things outside, that raises the value of these small communities a lot. So it's cool to be part of it.
When you think of a majority of these skate parks in rural Native communities, do you see like a possibility of the future of more Native American, Indigenous people in the country being able to go professional whenever it comes to skating because of these skate parks?
Yeah, we built a skate park in the Blackfeet Reservation 8 years ago, and to see how those kids are skating right now, like 8 years later, they aren't quite professional level, but they can skate with anybody right now. Like they have real street skills. They can skate any transition. And a bunch of those kids are getting in a car, and they're going to follow me over to Standing Rock this week. So that's going to be cool. We have some other skaters coming up from Pine Ridge. So that part of this trip is going to be amazing, just to see these rippers from these different tribes, like 1,000 miles apart, are going to land on Standing Rock and sort of break in the park and, in a proper manner.
Considering the last time that there was such a huge crowd gathering at Standing Rock, like the difference in contrast between it, that's got to be an amazing positive thing.
Yeah, I think we didn't set out to building these parks. We weren't setting out to necessarily. The main thing has been that we've wanted to go to the most isolated areas and help the people in the most isolated spots. And it just so happens that the most isolated areas in the country are usually native, these reservations. And so it's almost more of it almost makes us almost like aliens, where we get to bring like the builders that we use are some of the best in the world, and so we get to drop the best in the world in these really isolated areas, and it it it's just it's more rewarding to do something world class in these isolated areas than if you were doing it in a city where there's expectation, or there's almost a feeling of an entitlement to having these sorts of things. So I just love it. I just love the energy and the love that you feel like when we do this. And I think next week it's going to be the same, just based on like how many people are coming from all over the place. And I love bringing city people out to these rural areas and showing what's going on in other parts of the country, and in particular what's going on reservations, because a lot of the non-native city kids or city adults have no idea. They have no idea they have no idea about the history of our country, and the 10,000 years of work that Native people put into building the country. And so education, just a fringe benefit of all this park, and just like getting people to talk and getting people to commingle and make things better for the future.
That's amazing. So I like read a lot about like Pearl Jam and all the other people, in the past. And you had mentioned in one of your interviews that you grew up like pretty poor, and that usually comes with a lot of stigma, bullying, that kind of a thing. And I'm just wondering if you felt anything, if you had dealt with anything similar, and how would something like a skate park, or something like that in a rural community or a small community in general, how would it help children and young adults with that?
I mean, I was lucky. My parents did such an amazing job of it never felt like we were poor. They, a lot of times it was homemade gifts, at Christmas and on our birthdays. But we camped and we traveled as much as we traveled more than most of the people in our community. And so, I just always think like, what if this would have happened when I was a kid? What if somebody would have just built a skate park, or, just done something nice for our community, that would have been for the kids. And I'm still a kid at heart. And so I'm constantly thinking about like how, we can better serve young people. And I think if we take care of our young people, then the future takes care of itself. And I don't think our government does enough. I think there's a huge faction of our government that is trying to, take away, aid to young people, programs for young people. And so I think the future all is in the balance right now, and we really need to create positive outlets for kids and healthy outlets. And I just think skateboarding is one of those things. I just think it's just an amazing activity. It's creative, it's art, it's sport, it's peer group stuff. I think it's competitive in a really healthy way. Yeah, I'm excited that I can be a part of it. So we'll see where we're at in 5 or 10 years with all this.
Amazing. I just like a quick question. How long have you been skateboarding?
I started skateboarding in 1976. We got in a car, and my dad had 2 sisters in California, and I had a cousin who was a year older than me who had a skateboard, and on that trip, that's all we did was skate. And he gave me a magazine, Skateboarder magazine, and I read it on the way home. And as soon as I got home, I was like completely infatuated with everything that was in the magazine. It was something that nobody else was doing at that time in Montana, which kind of is perfect for my personality. I sort of really wanted to be the only one doing a lot of these things growing up. And so, uh, and they keep building all these amazing parks all over the place. So you got to stay healthy enough to, as a 60-year-old guy, you got to be healthy enough to get out and ride all this amazing terrain. So, feel lucky to still be doing it.
I gotta say, for 60 years old, you're doing amazing. That is so cool. Oh, so whenever it comes to this message, I mean, obviously through the skate parks, you're working with kids, and that's amazing, but you've also been influencing people with your music for over, gosh, like how many years now? And so if you were to like talk to children who are struggling, and I mean, music and sports is such an amazing outlet, how would you encourage children and young adults to go forward with that kind of a hobby?
Well, the thing that I've witnessed, again, I'm referencing the Thunder Park, the skate park, and the Blackfeet Reservation, is how I met the core group of kids up there. There was about 10 of them when they were like 11 to 13. And all those kids now are young adults. They are the tightest group of like, it's just the best little crew. And they help each other. They, when any one of them is going through a tough time, they lean on each other and they call each other up. And that's been one of the great things to witness, is that through skateboarding, they sort of they have ownership of the park. They take care of the park, and they take care of each other, and they're bringing up the young kids, and they're really aware of like what it's helped them sort of focus on something positive. It's giving them something that they're good at. And I think as a kid, I think we all remember the things that either helped our self-esteem or things that, or maybe even people that would tear you down and be detrimental to your self-esteem. And so I just think a park is it's a gathering place to create your own community. And I think watching these kids create their own community, and it's just a healthy peer group that they can share with one another. And I'm a little bit of a safety net for them, so that part's been really fun. But it's mostly just getting them gear and keeping them riding their boards. And again, I think it's being outside. I think it's the nature of all of us, in particular Native people. I think their relationship to the outdoors. I think these skate parks are outdoors in the wind and the rain and the snow and whatever. And so I think it just reconnects all of us with being in nature and being outdoors. And I think it's so far what we've seen, it's been healthy. So.
Absolutely inspirational. So I guess I can't go away from this interview without asking one question about Pearl Jam. I see that you have some tour dates coming up. Do you have any plans for new music in the future?
Well, we have like 9 or 10 shows, I think, in September. And we have been working on music. We're not done. We have a fair amount of work to do on it still. I hope we have something out next year. We have a bunch of dates sort of penciled in for next year, so a lot of that's going to be contingent upon us finishing this record. But we're just so happy to still be doing it, and those guys are like my best friends, and I think we're all like pinch ourselves that we still get to do this thing that we love so much, and we get to challenge each other creatively, and we get out and see the world and play our songs, for people all over the place. So we haven't done a ton of it in the last 3 or 4 years. So we're I hope we get to go get after it next year, and hopefully there's a new record behind it.